The elephant in the brain, uncovering the truth. Behind our actions, created and shared by Audiobook Spot. Introduction. Most of us think we make decisions based on reason, but what if the real reasons are hidden deep inside us? Every day we make choices big and small that shape the direction of our lives. From the way we spend our time to the way we interact with others, every decision has its own ripple effect. But have you ever wondered why you make some choices, even when they don't seem to make sense? Why you act in certain ways despite knowing better? The truth is, much of what drives us is hidden beneath the surface. Our brains are constantly at work, influencing our actions in ways we don't even realize. In this book, we're going to take a deep dive into the hidden truths behind our actions. What's really going on in your mind when you make decisions? Why do we do the things we do? And how can we change our behavior to live a more fulfilling life? By understanding the forces at play in our minds, we can begin to break free from the patterns that hold us back. The goal is to get to the root of our actions, uncover the hidden motivations, and use that knowledge to take control of our choices. This isn't just about understanding why we act the way we do. It's about finding the power to make better choices. When we get clear on what's really driving us, we can start to change our habits, our mindset, and ultimately our lives. The process is simple but powerful. Awareness first, then action. You'll learn how to recognize the patterns that keep you stuck, how to overcome them, and how to move toward the life you truly want. The journey isn't easy, but it's worth it. The truth behind our actions might not always be what we expect, but once we see it, we can use it to our advantage. This is about creating real, lasting change in your life, one choice at a time. It's time to uncover the truth behind your actions and take the steps toward the life you've always wanted. Chapter 1. Why we do what we do. Why do people make choices that go against their best interests? Why does someone promise themselves they'll change but fall back into old habits? These are questions most people ask at some point in life. It's easy to believe that every decision comes from a place of logic and careful thought, but the truth runs much deeper. The human mind is complex, filled with hidden motives that operate in the background, shaping actions without conscious awareness. Many of the choices made each day are not as deliberate as they seem. People think they have full control over their decisions, but in reality, emotions, habits, and subconscious programming play a major role. When someone reaches for unhealthy food despite knowing it's bad for them, when they delay important work despite understanding the consequences, or when they react defensively instead of listening, and it's not just about poor willpower. There are unseen forces at play, steering behavior in ways that often go unnoticed. One of the biggest reasons people struggle to change is that they underestimate the power of these hidden influences. They assume that simply wanting to improve is enough, but without recognizing what's truly driving their actions, they continue making the same mistakes. The mind is designed to prioritize comfort, familiarity, and short-term satisfaction. It resists change because change feels uncertain. When faced with a decision between growth and comfort, the brain often nudges a person toward the easier path, convincing them that it's the logical choice. Understanding why people act the way they do requires looking beyond surface-level explanations. People often justify their behavior with reasons that sound sensible but don't reflect the real cause. For example, someone might say they don't have time to work out, but the truth is they prioritize other activities over exercise. Another person might believe they struggle with confidence, but deep down, they fear failure or rejection. These justifications are not lies in the traditional sense. They are the brain's way of protecting itself from discomfort. Most people don't stop to question their own patterns. They go through life repeating behaviors without ever asking themselves why. This is why change feels so difficult. It requires awareness. It means slowing down and examining thoughts, emotions, and impulses instead of blindly following them. When someone becomes aware of their hidden motives, they gain the ability to break free from old cycles and take control of their choices. A common example of this is procrastination. Many believe they put things off because they are lazy, but that's rarely the real reason. More often, procrastination is driven by fear of failure, fear of imperfection, or fear of facing something difficult. When a task feels overwhelming, the brain looks for a way out, and delaying it provides temporary relief. But that relief comes at a cost. The more someone avoids taking action, the harder it becomes to start. The cycle continues until they either force themselves to do it at the last minute or abandon it altogether. Recognizing that procrastination is not about laziness, but about emotional avoidance, allows a person to address the root cause instead of blaming themselves. Another area where hidden motives influence behavior is the need for validation. People often care deeply about what others think, even when they tell themselves they don't. Social approval is wired into human nature because, in the past, being accepted by a group was necessary for survival. That instinct still exists, even if modern life no longer depends on it. This is why so many choices are made based on how they will be perceived, rather than what is truly best. Someone might stay in a job they dislike because they fear judgment for leaving. Another person might buy things they can't afford to impress others. The desire to fit in can push people to compromise their own needs without even realizing it. Overcoming this requires shifting focus from external validation to internal fulfillment. It means asking, am I doing this because it's right for me, or because I want approval? When people start making decisions based on their own values instead of outside expectations, they experience a deeper sense of purpose and confidence. Habits also play a crucial role in shaping behavior. Many actions are done automatically, without thinking. This is why breaking a bad habit feels so challenging. It's not just about making a different choice, it's about rewiring the brain's automatic responses. Someone who reaches for their phone the moment they wake up isn't making a conscious decision each morning. It has become a reflex. The same goes for unhealthy eating, negative self-talk, or any other repeated behavior. The key to changing habits is not just willpower, but creating a new automatic response. Instead of focusing on stopping a bad habit, it's more effective to replace it with a better one. The way people think also impacts their ability to change. Many believe they are stuck in their current ways, that personality traits or past experiences define them permanently. This mindset limits growth. Every action is a result of previous conditioning, but conditioning can be changed. A person who sees themselves as shy can develop confidence. Someone who struggles with discipline can build it over time. Growth is not reserved for a select few. It's available to anyone willing to challenge their own limitations. One of the most powerful steps toward personal change is taking full responsibility for actions. It's easy to blame circumstances, other people, or bad luck, but none of those things control a person's future as much as their own choices. Accepting responsibility doesn't mean ignoring external challenges. It means recognizing that improvement starts from within. People who take ownership of their lives don't wait for things to change. They take action to make things better. A useful exercise for building self-awareness is to start paying attention to everyday decisions. Before making a choice, pause and ask, why am I really doing this? The goal is not to judge or criticize, but to understand. The more someone questions their own behavior, the more clarity they gain. Over time, they start recognizing patterns, identifying hidden fears, and uncovering motivations they never noticed before. Self-awareness is the foundation of all growth. Without it, change is nearly impossible. The good news is that it can be developed. The more a person observes their own thoughts and actions, the more control they gain over their future. This is where transformation begins, not with willpower alone, but with a deep understanding of what drives behavior. There is nothing more powerful than knowing oneself. When people understand why they do what they do, They stop being controlled by hidden forces and start making choices that align with who they truly want to be. Real change isn't about forcing oneself into action, it's about removing the barriers that have been standing in the way all along. The moment someone takes ownership of their mind, they take ownership of their life. Chapter 2. The Illusion of Control. Most people like to believe they are in control of their lives. They assume that every decision they make is intentional, that they are the ones steering their future. But when they take a closer look at their daily actions, they begin to realize that control is often an illusion. The idea that people are fully in charge of their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors feels comforting, but it's not entirely true. From the moment someone wakes up, their mind is already running on autopilot. They check their phone without thinking, follow the same morning routine, and react to situations based on past patterns. Without realizing it, they respond to stress, social interactions, and opportunities in ways that have been shaped by years of conditioning. If asked why they did something, they can come up with a reasonable explanation, but often that explanation is created after the fact. The real reasons behind their choices are buried deep beneath the surface. The mind is constantly influenced by outside forces, advertisements, social norms, past experiences, and even the expectations of family and friends all shape decisions in ways most people never stop to question. When someone buys a certain brand, chooses a particular career path, or follows a routine, they may think they are acting out of free will. But if they were raised in a different environment, exposed to different ideas, or surrounded by different influences, they might have made completely different choices. Recognizing this is uncomfortable because it challenges the belief that every action is completely independent and deliberate. Habits play a major role in creating the illusion of control. The human brain is wired to conserve energy, which is why it prefers to repeat familiar patterns rather than constantly make new decisions. When something becomes a habit, it no longer requires conscious thought. This is useful for things like driving or brushing teeth, but it can also keep people stuck in behaviors they want to change. Someone who constantly reaches for their phone when they feel bored isn't making a conscious decision each time it's a programmed response. The same goes for emotional reactions. A person who always gets defensive when criticized may not realize they are reacting out of habit rather than making a rational choice. Emotions are another hidden force that affects behavior more than people realize. Many decisions that seem logical on the surface are actually driven by feelings. Someone might avoid a challenge thinking it's the wrong time, but in reality, they are just afraid of failure. Another person might stay in a relationship they know isn't right for them, not because it's the best decision, but because the fear of being alone is stronger than their desire for change. People often assume they are acting rationally, but emotions frequently override logic. Society also plays a part in reinforcing the illusion of control. From a young age, people are taught to follow rules, fit into expectations, and seek approval. Even those who see themselves as independent are influenced by the culture around them. The opinions of others can shape beliefs, sometimes without being noticed. When a person makes a decision, they may believe it comes from their own desires, but in many cases, it has been influenced by what they have been told is right or acceptable. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's important to recognize when outside influences are driving choices rather than personal conviction. One of the biggest traps is assuming that self-awareness alone is enough to take control. Just because someone understands their habits, emotions, or influences doesn't mean they can instantly change them. Many people recognize their bad habits, yet struggle to break them. They know what they should be doing, but find themselves repeating the same mistakes. This is because awareness is only the first step. True control requires effort, discipline, and sometimes uncomfortable changes. Breaking free from the illusion of control starts with questioning assumptions. Instead of accepting thoughts and behaviors as automatic, it helps to take a step back and ask why. Why am I reacting this way? Why do I believe this? Why do I keep making this decision even when I know it's not good for me? Simple questions like these can reveal hidden motivations and expose the patterns running in the background. Another important step is learning to pause before reacting. Many mistakes happen because people respond impulsively rather than taking a moment to consider their options. The ability to stop, reflect, and choose a response rather than defaulting to old habits is a sign of true control. This isn't always easy, but with practice it becomes possible to override automatic reactions and make more intentional choices. It's also necessary to take responsibility for one's actions. While external influences and unconscious habits play a role, they don't have to dictate the future. Excuses often come from the belief that things are outside of personal control, but progress happens when a person decides to take ownership. Instead of saying, "This is just how I am," or "I can't help it," it's more powerful to acknowledge that change is possible and that every choice matters. Real control comes from discipline. It's not about doing whatever feels good in the moment, but about making decisions that align with long-term goals. A person who allows their emotions, fears, or impulses to dictate their actions is not truly in control. On the other hand, someone who can recognize these influences and still make choices based on what's best for them has real power over their life. Taking control also means accepting that discomfort is part of growth. Many people avoid change because it's difficult, but avoiding discomfort only keeps them stuck. Those who succeed understand that challenges, setbacks, and temporary frustration are necessary parts of improvement. Instead of resisting discomfort, they lean into it, knowing that pushing through difficulty leads to real progress. Recognizing the illusion of control is not about feeling powerless, it's about gaining true awareness. The moment a person understands how their mind works, how habits shape them, and how outside influences affect their choices, they begin to break free. They stop living on autopilot and start making decisions with intention. This shift doesn't happen overnight, but each small step toward greater awareness leads to more control over the direction of life. There is no perfect formula for mastering the mind, but the key is to remain conscious of the forces at play. When a person pays attention to their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, instead of assuming they are always in control, they gain the ability to shape their future in a way they never could before. This is what separates those who stay stuck from those who grow. Chapter 3: The Power of Self-Awareness. Most people go through life without ever truly understanding themselves. They react to situations, make choices, and move forward without stopping to ask why they do what they do. They assume that they know themselves well, but if they were to pause and examine their thoughts, habits, and emotions, they might be surprised at what they find. The ability to recognize these patterns and understand what drives them is one of the most powerful skills a person can develop. Without self-awareness, change is nearly impossible because the root of the problem remains hidden. Many people struggle with the same challenges for years, not because they lack intelligence or effort, but because they don't see the real reasons behind their actions. They repeat unhealthy habits, stay stuck in the same emotional cycles, and wonder why they can't seem to make progress. The truth is that without awareness, people operate on autopilot, following patterns created long ago. Some of these patterns were picked up in childhood, others were shaped by experiences, and some were influenced by the people around them. These hidden forces can control behavior without being noticed. One of the biggest obstacles to self-awareness is defensiveness. It's uncomfortable to admit that mistakes, bad habits, or struggles might be self-inflicted. It's easier to blame circumstances, other people, or bad luck. But personal growth begins the moment someone is willing to take an honest look at themselves. This means facing uncomfortable truths, acknowledging weaknesses, and recognizing self-sabotaging behaviors. It requires setting aside excuses and focusing on what can be controlled. A useful way to start increasing self-awareness is by observing emotions. Many people assume that feelings just happen, but emotions are often signals pointing to deeper thoughts and beliefs. When someone feels frustrated, anxious, or angry, those emotions usually have a hidden cause. Instead of ignoring them or reacting automatically, pausing to ask, "What is this emotion trying to tell me?" can reveal valuable insights. For example, a person who constantly feels irritated with others might discover that their frustration comes from their own unmet expectations. Someone who experiences frequent anxiety might realize that they are constantly thinking about worst-case scenarios. A person who struggles with self-doubt might uncover a belief that they are not good enough, even if they have never questioned this thought before. Recognizing these patterns makes it possible to change them. Self-awareness also involves paying attention to thoughts. The mind is constantly running, but most people don't take the time to examine what they are thinking throughout the day. Thoughts shape emotions, decisions, and ultimately life direction. Negative thoughts often go unnoticed, yet they influence confidence, relationships, and actions. If a person repeatedly tells themselves they are not capable, that belief will affect how they approach challenges. If they constantly focus on what could go wrong, fear will hold them back from opportunities. Taking control of thoughts doesn't mean forcing only positive ones, but it does mean questioning them. Instead of automatically believing every thought that appears, it's important to ask, is this actually true? A person who thinks they are not good enough might realize they are measuring themselves by impossible standards. Someone who fears failure might recognize that setbacks are part of progress. Once thoughts are questioned, they begin to lose their power. Another key part of self-awareness is recognizing habits. Many actions are repeated daily without any real thought. The way someone reacts to stress, the routines they follow, the way they interact with others, these behaviors become so automatic that they feel like personality traits rather than choices. But the truth is that habits are created over time, and anything that is learned can be unlearned. A person who always procrastinates may think it's just part of who they are, but in reality, they have conditioned themselves to avoid discomfort. Someone who struggles with discipline might believe they lack willpower, when in fact, they simply haven't built the right systems. Identifying patterns allows a person to take control and start making intentional choices rather than repeating old behaviors. Understanding personal triggers is another powerful way to increase self-awareness. Everyone has certain situations or comments that immediately trigger a strong emotional response. Some people become defensive when criticized, others feel insecure in social situations, and some struggle with anger when things don't go as planned. These triggers often come from past experiences, but they continue affecting present behavior. Instead of reacting automatically, taking a moment to recognize and understand a trigger can change the outcome. For example, someone who becomes defensive when receiving feedback might realize that they grew up feeling judged, and their reaction is a way of protecting themselves. A person who avoids confrontation might discover that they associate conflict with rejection. Recognizing these patterns allows a person to separate the past from the present and respond differently. Journaling is a simple but effective tool for building self-awareness. Writing down thoughts, emotions, and experiences can reveal patterns that might not be obvious in the moment. Reading back on past entries can show growth, repeated mistakes, or hidden beliefs that need to be addressed. Even just a few minutes a day of writing can bring clarity. Another way to develop self-awareness is by asking for feedback from others. Sometimes people see things about us that we don't see ourselves. A close friend, mentor, or family member can offer valuable insights about habits or behaviors that might be holding someone back. The key is to listen without getting defensive. Not all feedback will be accurate, but considering different perspectives can provide useful information. Practicing mindfulness also helps strengthen self-awareness. This doesn't mean sitting in silence for hours, but simply paying attention to the present moment. Instead of rushing through the day on autopilot, slowing down and noticing thoughts, emotions, and reactions can provide valuable insights. Taking a few deep breaths before responding to a stressful situation, truly listening during a conversation, or being aware of how the body feels throughout the day can create a deeper connection with oneself. Developing self-awareness is not about judging or criticizing oneself, it's about understanding. The more a person observes their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, the more control they have over their future. Instead of feeling trapped by past mistakes or old habits, they gain the ability to make new choices. Growth is not about becoming someone completely different. It's about becoming the best version of who they already are. Life improves when people start paying attention to the things that influence them. When they stop reacting automatically and start questioning their own patterns, they open the door to real change. The more aware a person becomes, the more power they have over their life. Instead of being controlled by hidden forces, they take control of their own path. Chapter 4. The role of ego in our lives. Everyone has an ego, whether they realize it or not. It influences decisions, shapes how people see themselves, and affects the way they interact with others. Some associate it with arrogance, but it runs much deeper than that. It is the internal voice that craves recognition, resists criticism, and seeks validation. It can push people towards success, but it can also be the very thing holding them back. Understanding its role is the first step in making sure it works for growth rather than against it. The ego thrives on identity. People build a picture of who they are based on past experiences, accomplishments, and the way others see them. When something threatens that image, the ego reacts. If someone has always been praised for being intelligent, they may struggle when faced with a challenge that makes them feel otherwise. If they see themselves as strong and independent, they might reject help even when they need it. This attachment to identity can create resistance to change. Growth often requires admitting weaknesses, learning new skills, and stepping outside of comfort zones, things the ego isn't always willing to do. One of the ways the ego holds people back is by making them defensive. Nobody likes to hear that they are wrong, but the ego takes it personally. Instead of seeing feedback as a chance to improve, it interprets it as an attack. This is why so many people struggle with criticism. They immediately feel the need to justify, argue, or shut down. In reality, feedback is one of the most valuable tools for growth. The ability to listen, reflect, and adjust is what separates those who improve from those who stay stuck. The ego resists this because it wants to be right more than it wants to get better. Comparison is another way the ego influences behavior. It constantly looks for ways to measure up against others. Whether it's financial success, physical appearance, career achievements, or social status, the ego is always keeping score. The problem with this is that there is no finish line. No matter how much a person accomplishes, there will always be someone ahead in some area. This creates an endless cycle of chasing external validation, which often leads to frustration and dissatisfaction. True confidence doesn't come from being better than others. It comes from being better than before. The only comparison that matters is against past versions of oneself. Pride can also be a major obstacle. There is nothing wrong with taking pride in accomplishments, but when it gets in the way of progress, it becomes a problem. The ego hates admitting mistakes. It doesn't like asking for help. It resists anything that makes a person feel vulnerable. But growth requires humility. The people who achieve the most are the ones willing to learn from others, acknowledge when they are wrong, and seek guidance when necessary. Pride can keep someone stuck in their ways, refusing to change even when it's clear they need to. The need for control is another way the ego affects daily life. Many people struggle with uncertainty because the ego wants to feel in charge. It convinces them that if they plan enough, prepare enough, or worry enough, they can control the outcome. But life doesn't work that way. Unexpected things happen, people don't always behave as expected, and plans fall apart. Learning to accept uncertainty rather than fight it brings a sense of peace that the ego can never provide. True confidence comes not from controlling everything, but from trusting that no matter what happens, it can be handled. The ego also plays a role in relationships. It creates unrealistic expectations, assumes the worst in others, and makes it difficult to truly listen. When two people argue, it's rarely about the issue itself, it's about who gets to be right. The ego turns disagreements into battles, where the goal isn't to find a solution but to win. This can damage friendships, partnerships, and even professional relationships. The ability to set aside ego and focus on understanding the other person leads to stronger connections and fewer conflicts. Another trap is the need for validation. Many people base their self-worth on external approval. They need others to recognize their achievements, praise their efforts, or acknowledge their worth. This puts power in the hands of others. If validation is received, they feel good. If it's not, they feel unworthy. The problem with relying on external validation is that it's unpredictable. People's opinions change, attention shifts, and expectations grow. True confidence comes from within, not from waiting for others to provide it. Fear of failure is another way the ego limits potential. It whispers that making mistakes is embarrassing, that failing means something is wrong, and that taking risks is dangerous. Because of this, many people never even try. They stick to what is safe, avoiding opportunities that could lead to growth. But the reality is that failure is not a reflection of worth, it's a necessary step toward success. The most successful people in the world have failed more times than most will ever attempt. They don't let the ego's fear of failure stop them, because they understand that mistakes are proof of effort, not evidence of inadequacy. Letting go of the ego doesn't mean lacking confidence. It doesn't mean giving up ambition or lowering standards. It means shifting the focus from proving worth to improving skills. It means being open to learning rather than insisting on being right. It means understanding that self-worth is not determined by comparison, validation, or external success. When people stop letting their ego control their actions, they make decisions based on what truly matters rather than what looks good. They seek growth instead of approval. They listen more than they argue. They recognize that progress is more important than perfection. Life changes when the ego stops being in charge. Opportunities become clearer, relationships improve, and setbacks lose their power. Instead of feeling the need to constantly defend, impress, or control, there is freedom to focus on real growth. Recognizing the role of the ego is the first step in making sure it doesn't run the show. When a person masters this, they unlock a level of potential that would otherwise remain hidden. Chapter 5. The Hidden Reasons Behind Your Choices. People like to believe that every decision they make is completely logical, carefully thought out, and fully within their control. But beneath the surface, there are deeper forces shaping the way choices are made. Many of these influences go unnoticed, but they play a significant role in determining actions, behaviors, and even the direction of life. Understanding these hidden reasons is the first step in taking true control over decision-making. One of the strongest influences on behavior is past experience. Every situation that has been encountered leaves a mark. Childhood lessons, past successes, painful failures, each one contributes to the way new situations are approached. Sometimes a fear of repeating past mistakes leads to hesitation, even when an opportunity is promising. Other times, a past victory creates overconfidence, causing someone to overlook important details. These past experiences don't just sit in the background, they shape instincts and gut reactions. Recognizing this influence can help in making better choices rather than blindly following old patterns. Another hidden factor is social influence. People like to think they are independent thinkers, but much of what they do is influenced by the people around them. Friends, family, colleagues, and even strangers can shape opinions and decisions without it being obvious. This is why trends spread so quickly, and why people often find themselves making choices that align with those closest to them. If the people around someone prioritize health, financial success, or personal growth, it becomes easier to adopt those values. On the other hand, if they value comfort, excuses, or distractions, it's easy to fall into those patterns as well. Becoming aware of how social circles impact decisions allows for greater control over personal direction. Another powerful but often overlooked influence is emotion. Many believe they make choices based purely on logic, but emotions often drive decisions before logic even gets involved. Anxiety can cause hesitation. Excitement can lead to rushed decisions. Anger can make someone act impulsively. The brain is wired to respond to feelings before it fully processes a situation. This is why people often look back on past choices and wonder what they were thinking. Learning to recognize when emotions are taking over allows for a pause before making decisions that might not serve long-term goals. Comfort plays a significant role in decision-making as well. Many choices are made simply because they feel familiar. The brain prefers what is known over what is unknown, even if the unknown has the potential for something better. This is why people stay in jobs they dislike, relationships that don't fulfill them, or routines that don't serve their best interests. The pull of comfort is strong, but growth only happens when stepping outside of what feels easy. Recognizing when comfort is guiding a choice instead of true desire is essential for progress. Fear is another hidden force behind many decisions. It shows up in different forms: fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of embarrassment. It can disguise itself as caution, logic, or practicality, but its real goal is to keep things exactly as they are. People turn down opportunities, not because they aren't capable, but because they are afraid of what might happen if things don't go as planned. Fear can make excuses sound reasonable, convincing someone to wait for the right time that never actually comes. Learning to identify fear-based decisions is key to breaking free from its grip. Instant gratification is another hidden driver of behavior. The brain is wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain, which is why so many decisions are made in the moment without considering long-term consequences. Skipping a workout, spending money on unnecessary things, choosing entertainment over education, these are choices often made to satisfy immediate desires rather than future goals. This is why discipline is so important. The ability to delay short-term pleasure for long-term reward separates those who succeed from those who stay stuck. Understanding this tendency helps in making choices that align with bigger goals rather than just temporary comfort. Expectations also shape decisions in ways that aren't always obvious. Society, culture, and upbringing create an invisible rulebook for how life should be lived. Many people follow these expectations without ever questioning whether they truly align with what they want. They choose careers based on what seems respectable, relationships based on what is considered normal, and goals based on what others deem impressive. But real fulfillment comes from making choices based on personal values, not external pressure. Recognizing when decisions are being made out of obligation rather than genuine desire is a crucial step toward living a more authentic life. Subconscious beliefs also play a major role in decision-making. These are deeply ingrained thoughts about what is possible, what is deserved, and what is realistic. Someone who grew up hearing that money is hard to earn may unknowingly make choices that keep them struggling financially. A person who was told they aren't naturally smart may avoid challenges that could prove otherwise. These beliefs operate in the background, quietly shaping decisions without ever being questioned. Becoming aware of limiting beliefs allows them to be challenged and replaced with more empowering ones. Another common but unnoticed influence is self-image. People tend to act in ways that match how they see themselves. If someone believes they are shy, they will avoid speaking up. If they see themselves as undisciplined, they will struggle to follow through on commitments. The mind works hard to keep actions consistent with identity, even if that identity is outdated or inaccurate. Changing behavior starts with changing the way one sees themselves. Instead of focusing on past patterns, focusing on the kind of person one wants to become makes it easier to make decisions that align with that vision. Habits also play a role in decision-making without much thought. Many choices aren't actually choices at all. They are automatic responses based on years of repetition. The way someone reacts to stress, how they start their day, what they do when faced with difficulty, all of these are often just habits playing out. The good news is that habits can be reshaped. By intentionally creating small changes, better choices become automatic over time. Awareness of daily habits allows for conscious improvements rather than repeating unhelpful patterns. Understanding the hidden reasons behind choices is one of the most powerful ways to take control of life. Decisions are not always made for the reasons people think. They are shaped by past experiences, emotions, social influences, subconscious beliefs, and many other unseen factors. The key to making better choices is to slow down, question automatic responses, and ensure that decisions align with personal values rather than external pressures. Once these hidden forces are recognized, they no longer have the same power. Instead of being controlled by invisible influences, choices become intentional, leading to a life that is truly self-directed. Chapter 6. What others think of you, and why it matters. People often say they don't care what others think, but deep down most do. It's natural to want approval, respect, and a sense of belonging. The problem arises when the opinions of others start dictating choices, limiting potential, and controlling happiness. Whether it's fear of judgment, pressure to meet expectations, or the need for validation, what others think has a powerful influence on behavior, often without people even realizing it. Understanding this influence and learning how to take control of it is key to living with confidence and freedom. From an early age, people are taught to seek approval. Parents reward good behavior with praise. Teachers give grades that measure performance. Society recognizes achievements through awards and recognition. Over time, this creates a deep connection between self-worth and external validation. When people do things that earn approval, they feel good. When they face criticism or rejection, it feels personal. This is why so many struggle to make decisions based on their own desires, rather than what will impress or satisfy others. The need for approval can become a prison, keeping people stuck in roles, routines, and relationships that no longer serve them. One of the most common fears is being judged. Nobody wants to be laughed at, criticized, or seen as a failure. This fear holds people back from taking risks, speaking their minds, and pursuing their goals. They worry about what their friends, family, or colleagues will say if they fail, change paths, or break away from the norm. This kind of thinking creates hesitation and self-doubt. The truth is, people are often so focused on their own lives that they rarely spend much time judging others. Most of the fear of judgment is imagined, not real. Another way opinions of others shape behavior is through social expectations. There are unspoken rules about what success should look like, what kind of job is respectable, and what kind of lifestyle is acceptable. People follow these expectations without even questioning whether they align with what they truly want. They choose careers based on prestige, relationships based on appearances, and goals based on what will earn them the most admiration. When life choices are driven by external expectations rather than internal desires, true fulfillment becomes impossible. Comparison also plays a major role in how people see themselves. Social media has made this worse by constantly showcasing the highlight reels of others. People see friends achieving milestones, traveling the world, or living what looks like a perfect life, and they start questioning their own progress. This leads to feelings of inadequacy, even when they have accomplished plenty. The reality is that people only share what they want others to see. Nobody posts their failures, insecurities, or struggles in the same way they share their victories. Measuring personal worth based on a filtered version of other people's lives creates unnecessary stress and disappointment. Criticism is something that everyone faces at some point. No matter what someone does, there will always be people who disagree, disapprove, or have something negative to say. Some will criticize because they don't understand. Others do it because of their own insecurities. The worst mistake is allowing this criticism to become a reason to give up or change direction. The most successful people in the world have been doubted, judged, and ridiculed. What separates them from the rest is their ability to stay focused on their goals despite what others say. Another trap is the tendency to seek permission. People hold themselves back from making bold moves because they wait for approval. They want their decisions to be validated by friends, family, or society before they feel comfortable taking action. This keeps them from making changes that could improve their lives. Those who achieve the most don't ask for permission to chase their dreams. They understand that their happiness and success are their responsibility, not something that needs to be approved by others. People also underestimate how much their environment shapes their confidence and mindset. Spending time around those who constantly criticize, doubt, or bring negativity can make it harder to trust personal choices. On the other hand, surrounding oneself with people who encourage, support, and inspire makes it easier to take risks and grow. It's important to be intentional about who has influence over thoughts and decisions. The wrong voices can create fear and hesitation, while the right ones can push someone toward their full potential. Letting go of the need for approval doesn't mean ignoring feedback or shutting out the world. It means learning to separate useful criticism from pointless negativity. It means being confident in personal choices even when others don't understand them. It means valuing inner happiness over external validation. The only person who has to live with the consequences of a decision is the one making it. Nobody else is responsible for the outcome, which is why their opinions should never hold too much weight. Making peace with the fact that not everyone will approve of every decision is a sign of personal strength. Some people will misunderstand, some will disapprove, and others will judge. That's life. But none of that should stop someone from doing what they know is right for them. True confidence comes from knowing personal worth is not determined by what others think, but by the actions taken, the values lived by, and the growth achieved along the way. When this mindset is mastered, the opinions of others lose their power, and life becomes a lot more fulfilling. Chapter 7. Why we procrastinate. It's not just laziness. Everyone has experienced the frustration of knowing they need to do something, but putting it off anyway. Tasks pile up, deadlines get closer, and stress increases. Yet instead of taking action, distractions take over. People scroll through their phones, watch another episode, or find something easier to do. Even when the consequences are clear, the cycle repeats. It's easy to blame laziness, but the real reason behind procrastination goes much deeper. Understanding why it happens is the first step to breaking free from it. One of the main reasons people delay important tasks is because of overwhelm. When a goal or responsibility feels too big, the brain looks for an escape. Instead of tackling the challenge head-on, avoidance kicks in. The mind tricks itself into believing that waiting will make things easier, but in reality, it only makes the problem worse. The longer something is delayed, the more pressure builds, and the harder it becomes to start. Breaking things down into small, manageable steps makes it easier to move forward instead of freezing in place. Fear plays a huge role in procrastination. Fear of failure, fear of not doing something perfectly, or even fear of success can stop someone from starting. If there's a chance of messing up, the mind will find excuses to wait for a better time. But waiting doesn't eliminate fear, it only gives it more power. The most successful people in the world aren't fearless. They just take action despite their fears. The only way to build confidence is by doing, not waiting. Discomfort is another reason people delay tasks. Anything that requires effort, focus, or discipline feels uncomfortable at first. The brain is wired to avoid pain and seek pleasure, which is why distractions feel so tempting. Watching television, playing games, or scrolling through social media provide instant satisfaction, while important tasks often come with delayed rewards. Training the mind to push through initial discomfort and focus on long-term benefits makes a huge difference in productivity. Lack of clarity can also lead to procrastination. When a task is vague or unclear, the mind struggles to take action. Not knowing where to start creates hesitation, making it easier to push things aside. People often think they need motivation to begin, but in reality, clarity is more important. Taking a few minutes to define what needs to be done and creating a simple plan removes the mental roadblock that causes delays. Once the first step is clear, it becomes much easier to follow through. Perfectionism is another hidden cause of procrastination. Many people put things off because they don't want to do them unless they can be done perfectly. They rewrite the same sentence over and over, delay a project because they don't feel ready, or avoid starting because they fear making mistakes. This mindset creates unnecessary stress and makes even simple tasks feel overwhelming. The truth is, perfection doesn't exist. Progress is more important than perfection, and the only way to improve is by taking imperfect action. Energy levels also play a big role in productivity. When someone is exhausted, mentally drained, or running on little sleep, tasks feel much harder than they actually are. The brain struggles to focus, motivation disappears, and even small decisions feel overwhelming. Taking care of basic needs, getting enough rest, eating well, and staying active can have a huge impact on focus and performance. Many people blame procrastination on poor willpower, when in reality they're just running on an empty battery. People often delay tasks because they don't see immediate results. Society is used to quick rewards, fast food, instant entertainment, and same-day delivery. But important goals take time, and when progress isn't visible right away, it's easy to lose motivation. This is why many people start strong and quit before they see results. Understanding that small actions add up over time helps create the patience needed to stay consistent. Another reason people put things off is because they don't make their goals a priority. They say they want to be healthier, start a business, or improve their skills, but their daily actions don't reflect those desires. Instead of setting clear, non-negotiable commitments, they leave things open-ended. When something isn't scheduled or treated as essential, it's too easy to push it aside when distractions come up. Creating a routine and setting clear deadlines forces action, making it harder to delay progress. Negative self-talk can also contribute to procrastination. Many people hold themselves back because they don't believe they are capable. They tell themselves they aren't smart enough, disciplined enough, or talented enough to succeed. These thoughts create hesitation and reinforce avoidance. The truth is, success isn't about natural talent, it's about effort, consistency, and learning along the way. Changing self-talk and focusing on progress instead of perfection helps build the mindset needed to take action. Some people procrastinate because they rely too much on motivation. They wait until they feel like it before starting, but motivation is unreliable. Some days it's there, some days it's not. If action is only taken when motivation is high, progress will always be inconsistent. Discipline is far more powerful than motivation. Developing the habit of doing things even when it's inconvenient is what separates successful people from those who stay stuck. Breaking free from procrastination starts with awareness. Understanding why tasks are being delayed helps remove the emotional weight behind them. Instead of feeling guilty or frustrated, the focus can shift to taking small, intentional steps forward. The key is to stop overthinking and start doing. Action creates momentum, and once progress begins, motivation naturally follows. The longer something is put off, the harder it becomes, but the moment action is taken, resistance weakens. Life is too short to spend it waiting for the right time to start. Every goal, dream, and opportunity is on the other side of action. There will always be distractions, excuses, and reasons to wait, but none of them matter as much as the choice to begin. Pushing past hesitation and taking control of time and energy leads to growth, confidence, and success. The power to change any situation is in the hands of the person willing to take action now. Chapter 8. The truth about your habits. Some are good, like brushing teeth or exercising, and some are not so good, like procrastinating or mindlessly scrolling through social media. Habits shape every aspect of life, from the small actions to the big decisions. Yet most people don't take a close look at the habits they've formed, and they wonder why they keep repeating the same patterns, even when they don't bring results or happiness. Understanding the truth about habits can help break unhealthy ones and build the ones that lead to growth and success. Habits are behaviors that are repeated so often that they become automatic. Over time, the brain learns to do things without much thought. This can be great for routine tasks like driving a car or making a cup of coffee because it frees up mental energy for other things. But habits can also trap people in cycles of actions that don't align with their goals or values. The most common example of this is someone who keeps saying they want to lose weight but repeatedly chooses unhealthy food or skips workouts. It's not a matter of willpower or lack of knowledge. It's a matter of the habits they've formed and the mental triggers that guide them. One of the biggest reasons people struggle with habits is that they don't realize how much their environment influences their behavior. The things people surround themselves with, whether it's unhealthy food, clutter, or distraction scan, make it much harder to stick to a positive habit. When temptation is easily accessible, it's easy to give in. The key is to set up an environment that supports the habits one wants to develop. If the goal is to eat healthier, keep nutritious food visible and within reach. If the goal is to read more, keep books in a place that's easy to access. A positive environment encourages the behaviors that lead to success. Another factor that influences habits is the immediate reward system. The brain is wired to respond to instant gratification. This is why it's so easy to give in to distractions like checking email, playing games, or watching television. These actions provide a quick sense of pleasure or relief. On the other hand, important tasks like working on a big project, learning a new skill, or saving money don't provide immediate rewards. Instead, they require delayed gratification, which can be difficult to sustain over time. This is where the power of small wins comes in. Breaking larger goals into smaller, achievable tasks helps create quick wins that keep motivation high and build momentum. When trying to change a habit, it's important to understand that it's not about sheer willpower or trying to force change. Habits don't change overnight. The process of replacing an old habit with a new one takes time and consistency. One of the best ways to break a bad habit is to replace it with a better one, rather than trying to eliminate the old habit entirely. For example, if the goal is to stop eating junk food, it's more effective to replace that habit with a healthier choice, like grabbing a piece of fruit or drinking water when the craving hits. Over time, the new habit becomes automatic, and the old one fades away. A common mistake people make when trying to form a new habit is being too hard on themselves when they slip up. It's normal to have setbacks, especially when trying to change long-standing behaviors. The key is to not let one mistake turn into a reason to give up entirely. Instead of beating yourself up, focus on getting back on track right away. Building a new habit is a journey, not a sprint. And it's important to keep moving forward even when progress seems slow. Tracking progress is another powerful way to stay on track with habits. When people see how far they've come, it motivates them to keep going. Whether it's marking off days on a calendar, keeping a journal, or using an app to track progress, seeing growth reinforces the new habit. It's important to celebrate milestones along the way, no matter how small they may seem. These small victories keep the momentum going and make the process more enjoyable. One of the biggest challenges in forming new habits is staying consistent. It's easy to start strong, but consistency is what makes a habit stick. This is why routines are so powerful. When habits are part of a daily routine, they become automatic, and the brain doesn't have to think about whether or not to do them. It just happens. The key is to start with a simple habit that can be easily incorporated into daily life. Over time, the habit becomes ingrained, and it's easier to add more positive behaviors. People often focus too much on the end result and forget about the process of change. When trying to develop a new habit, the journey is just as important as the destination. It's easy to become frustrated if the goal isn't reached quickly, but the small actions taken daily are what create lasting transformation. Rather than focusing on how long it's taking, focus on the progress made each day. Every step forward, no matter how small, brings closer to the ultimate goal. A powerful technique for changing habits is the power of identity. People often identify themselves based on their current behaviors, which can limit their ability to change. For example, someone might say, "I'm not a morning person," or "I've always been disorganized." But these identities can be changed. Instead of focusing on the behavior, focus on the identity you want to adopt. For instance, instead of saying, "I want to read more," say, "I am a reader." This shift in identity makes the habit feel like part of who you are, making it much easier to stick to it. Another way to make habits stick is by finding an accountability partner. Having someone to check in with or share progress makes a huge difference in staying on track. Knowing that someone else is rooting for you, or that you'll be updating them on your progress, increases motivation and makes it harder to procrastinate. Accountability doesn't just come from others, it can also come from personal commitments. Writing down goals, sharing them with someone, or simply setting reminders can help keep focus on the desired habits. It's important to remember that habits aren't just about what's easy or convenient. They're about the actions that support long-term goals and values. This is why it's crucial to choose habits that align with personal values rather than what feels comfortable in the moment. For example, choosing to wake up early to exercise or read can be challenging at first, but these habits help build discipline and progress toward bigger dreams. The choices made in the present shape the future, and developing the right habits today lays the foundation for a better tomorrow. Habits are more than just actions. They shape the person one becomes. Every small decision, repeated over time, creates a pattern. Whether it's a good habit or a bad one, those repeated behaviors create the future. The key is to take control of the habits and to be intentional about building the ones that lead to the person one wants to be. Every habit, no matter how small, has the power to move someone closer to the life they dream of. It's not about making huge changes overnight, it's about making small, consistent improvements every single day. Chapter 9. How your brain tricks you into staying the same. There's something uniquely powerful about the human brain, but sometimes it works against us, keeping us stuck in patterns that prevent progress. One of the most deceptive things about the brain is how it can convince us that we're making progress when we're actually standing still. It's as if our mind has a way of tricking us into thinking we're doing everything we should be doing, even when we're not. This happens in ways we don't always recognize, and it can have a major impact on the ability to grow, develop new skills, and reach goals. The brain loves routine, and it craves comfort. It's wired to find shortcuts, which is helpful when you need to act quickly in an emergency, but not so helpful when it comes to making lasting changes in your life. The truth is, the brain tries to keep you in familiar patterns because it doesn't want to work harder than it has to. When you make decisions based on convenience, the brain is happy because it doesn't have to think too much. The problem is that if you keep choosing the E option, you never really move forward. And over time, this leads to stagnation. One of the most common ways the brain tricks you into staying the same is through what's called the comfort zone. This is the place where everything feels safe and predictable. When you're in the comfort zone, nothing challenges you and there's no risk. But that's also where growth stops. When you're not challenged, you don't learn and you don't grow. The brain doesn't care about growth, it cares about safety and efficiency. So when you avoid stepping outside the comfort zone, it feels easier, but in reality, you're just reinforcing habits that hold you back. Breaking free from the comfort zone requires a willingness to experience discomfort. It's never easy to try something new, and there's always a natural resistance to change. But the brain can't grow if it's never stretched. The good news is that once you start taking small risks and pushing yourself beyond what's familiar, the discomfort fades. The brain eventually adapts to the new challenge, and you start building confidence. Once you face that first challenge, the next one feels easier. You start to realize that the brain's resistance is not a wall, but a signpost pointing to an area of your life that's ready for growth. Another trick the brain plays is the tendency to focus on short-term rewards instead of long-term benefits. The brain loves instant gratification. It seeks immediate pleasure, whether it's through food, entertainment, or distractions. When faced with something difficult, the brain tries to avoid it by luring you into something easier, something that provides an instant payoff. This is why it's so tempting to scroll through your phone, eat junk food, or delay important work. The problem is that these quick fixes don't lead to long-term fulfillment or success. They just delay the inevitable work that needs to be done. The key to overcoming this trick of the brain is to practice delaying gratification. It doesn't mean you have to deny yourself pleasure altogether. It just means recognizing the difference between what feels good now and what will feel good in the future. Instead of giving in to the immediate desire for comfort, you can make a conscious decision to focus on something that will benefit you down the road. This shift in thinking isn't easy, but it's the only way to make lasting progress toward your goals. The brain also tricks you into thinking that you need to be perfect. Perfectionism is one of the most insidious habits, and it often holds people back from starting or finishing anything. The brain convinces you that if you can't do something perfectly, you shouldn't do it at all. This kind of thinking stops you from taking action because you're always waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect plan. The truth is that perfection doesn't exist. The best you can do is try, learn, and improve along the way. The brain's desire for perfection often leads to inaction and missed opportunities. The only way to overcome this is to take imperfect action and keep moving forward, even when things aren't perfect. The same principle applies when it comes to avoiding failure. The brain doesn't like failure because it associates it with danger or shame, but failure is an essential part of success. Without it, there's no growth. Yet, many people are paralyzed by the fear of failure, and this fear prevents them from even attempting to take risks. The brain tells them that failing means they're not good enough or capable enough, but the truth is, failure is simply feedback. Every failure provides an opportunity to learn and improve. By shifting the focus from the fear of failure to the lessons that come with it, you can break free from this mental trap. Another way the brain keeps you stuck is through self-doubt. Everyone experiences moments of uncertainty, but when self-doubt takes over, it becomes a barrier to progress. The brain tells you that you're not smart enough, talented enough, or experienced enough to succeed. But these thoughts are just stories you tell yourself. The truth is that everyone starts somewhere, and the only way to improve is to take action. Self-doubt often arises when you're on the edge of a breakthrough, and it tries to pull you back into the comfort zone. But when you push through that doubt and take action anyway, You start to prove to yourself that you're capable of more than you thought. The brain also tricks you by convincing you that you don't have time. It's easy to get overwhelmed by the demands of daily life, and the brain convinces you that you're too busy to work on your goals. But the reality is that everyone has the same 24 hours in a day, and it's about how you use those hours that matters. Time doesn't disappear, it's spent on what you prioritize. If you want to make progress toward your goals, you have to make time for them. It doesn't have to be a lot of time at once. Even small, consistent actions add up over time. Sometimes, the brain tricks you into thinking that you need to be in the right mood to take action. It's easy to think that you'll be more productive when you're feeling motivated or energized, but the truth is that motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes. Waiting for the perfect mood to strike is a form of procrastination. The reality is that you don't have to wait for motivation to take action. Taking action first can actually create motivation. Once you start moving forward, you'll find that motivation follows and momentum builds. Understanding the ways in which the brain tricks you into staying the same is the first step in breaking free from those patterns. The key is to recognize these mental traps and consciously choose to act in a way that aligns with your goals and values. The brain will always try to pull you back into familiar habits, but you have the power to push forward. It takes time, effort, and consistency, but every step you take is a step toward the life you want to create. Chapter 10. The real reason you're not reaching your goals. It's one of the toughest realizations to come to, but it's also one of the most important. The reason you're not reaching your goals often has nothing to do with your potential or ability. It's not that you lack the talent, drive, or intelligence to succeed. It's not even that you don't want it badly enough. The truth is, the reason you're not reaching your goals might be far simpler and far more complex than you'd like to admit. Most of the time, the real reason we don't achieve what we set out to do comes down to one thing. We don't focus on the right things, or we don't focus on them consistently. You see, goals are easy to set. Everyone has dreams, ideas, and things they want to accomplish. You might want to lose weight, write a book, start a business, or even just be more organized. But while setting goals is simple, achieving them requires a different kind of thinking. It requires more than just wishful thinking or motivation. You have to commit to doing the work, day in and day out, even when it doesn't feel exciting or rewarding. This is where most people trip up. They start strong, but over time they lose sight of what really matters. The root of the problem lies in how we approach our goals. For many, goals are tied to big, distant results. We set these massive targets that feel good to think about, but we don't always break them down into actionable steps. It's easy to say you want to lose 30 pounds, but what are you doing today, this week, or even this month to make that happen? Without breaking the goal down into smaller, manageable tasks, it's easy to get overwhelmed and discouraged. Even if we do break the goal down, we sometimes make the mistake of focusing on the end result instead of the process. We get so obsessed with what we want to achieve that we forget what it takes to get there. Success doesn't just happen when you hit the finish line. It happens in the small decisions you make each day. It happens when you choose to take that extra step, even when it feels inconvenient or tough. The more you focus on the process, the easier it becomes to stay motivated and on track. Instead of waiting for the goal to feel real, focus on the daily steps that lead up to it. Another issue that keeps us from reaching our goals is perfectionism. Many people make the mistake of believing that everything has to be just right before they can take action. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or the perfect set of circumstances, but this never happens. The perfect moment doesn't exist. If you're waiting for everything to align perfectly, you'll be waiting forever. The key to success is taking imperfect action. The first step doesn't need to be flawless, it just needs to be taken. Procrastination is another major hurdle. It's something that all of us experience at some point or another, but for many people it becomes a way of life. You may tell yourself that you'll start tomorrow, or that you'll tackle it when you feel more motivated. But what usually happens is that tomorrow never comes. You keep putting things off, and before you know it, months or even years have gone by. The reason you procrastinate has less to do with laziness and more to do with fear. Fear of failure, fear of not being good enough, fear of the discomfort that comes with growth. But all this fear does is keep you stuck. Procrastination is simply avoidance in disguise. The moment you face that fear and take action anyway, you begin to break free from its grip. Part of why procrastination thrives is that it feels good in the moment. The brain loves instant gratification, so it'll always try to avoid what feels hard or uncomfortable. But the satisfaction you get from putting things off doesn't last. It's a temporary relief that only increases the pressure later on. Instead of waiting for the right moment to act, make a decision to take one small step forward now. The momentum from that action will help you move past the inertia that's been holding you back. When it comes to why you're not reaching your goals, one of the most overlooked factors is self-sabotage. This is when, even though you want success, you somehow find a way to get in your own way. Maybe you procrastinate, make excuses, or avoid making decisions altogether. The mind has a way of creating barriers, and you might not even realize you're the one building them. Self-sabotage often happens when you're faced with something that feels too big or too hard. Instead of tackling it, you choose the path of least resistance, even if it means staying stuck. It's not because you don't want success, but because you're afraid of the changes that success will bring. Success often requires change, and change can feel overwhelming or intimidating. But unless you're willing to face those fears and move through them, you'll stay stuck in the same cycle of self-sabotage. Another reason goals aren't achieved is that we forget the importance of accountability. It's easy to say you want something, but it's harder to stay committed when no one is holding you to it. Accountability forces you to show up for your goals, even when you don't feel like it. Without accountability, it's all too easy to let yourself off the hook and make excuses. But when you have someone else checking in on your progress or expecting you to take action, it pushes you to follow through. The good news is that accountability doesn't have to come from someone else. You can hold yourself accountable by tracking your progress, setting deadlines, or even using reminders to keep you on track. The key is to make sure that you have something or someone pushing you to take consistent action. It's also important to recognize that achieving goals is not a straight line. Progress doesn't happen in a linear fashion, and there will be setbacks along the way. When things don't go as planned, it's easy to get discouraged and give up. But setbacks are simply a part of the process. They don't mean failure. They mean you're learning, adjusting, and growing. The most successful people are not the ones who avoid failure. They're the ones who know how to bounce back from it. If you're serious about reaching your goals, you have to embrace the bumps in the road as part of the journey. Finally, one of the most important reasons we don't reach our goals is that we don't stay committed to them long enough. It's not enough to want something, you have to be willing to put in the time, effort, and energy to make it happen. Success takes time, and it's easy to get distracted by other things or give up when you don't see immediate results. But if you keep going, even when things get tough, you'll start to see progress. It may not be immediate, but with consistent effort, you'll eventually reach the finish line. The key to achieving your goals isn't in having the perfect plan or being the smartest person in the room. It's about showing up every day, doing the work, and staying focused on the process. It's about recognizing the obstacles for what they are, temporary challenges that can be overcome with persistence. When you commit to your goals, stay accountable, take consistent action, and keep moving forward, you'll find that success is not only possible but inevitable. Chapter 11. Why we compare ourselves to others. It's something we all do, often without realizing it, but it's a behavior that can hold us back in many areas of life. We compare ourselves to others, constantly measuring our achievements, progress, or even our worth against someone else's. Whether it's looking at a friend's success, the career achievements of a colleague, or the seemingly perfect life of an influencer on social media, comparison seems to be a natural part of how we view the world. But the truth is, this habit is more destructive than most of us realize. One of the main reasons we compare ourselves to others is because it gives us a sense of validation. If someone else is doing better, we feel like we're not measuring up. If someone else is struggling more than we are, we might feel a sense of relief. But the problem with this thinking is that it's entirely external. We let other people define our self-worth instead of defining it ourselves. What happens when we spend so much time comparing ourselves to others is that we lose sight of our own journey, our own progress, and most importantly, our own unique path to success. In many ways, comparison is like a trap. It keeps you focused on things that are out of your control. You can't control how much someone else is achieving or the choices they make. But you can control your own actions, your own mindset, and your own journey. Instead of using someone else's success or struggles as a benchmark for your own life, it's important to shift your perspective. Instead of comparing, start focusing on where you are right now and where you want to go from here. There's a lot of power in recognizing that you are exactly where you need to be on your own path. Everyone's journey is different, and just because someone else has made progress faster or has achieved things you admire, doesn't mean you're not on your way. A big part of comparison stems from insecurities. When we feel unsure of ourselves or our abilities, it's easy to look around and see others as proof of what we lack. But this way of thinking only serves to keep us stuck. When we measure our progress based on someone else's timeline or achievements, we're not honoring the work we've done, the lessons we've learned, or the growth we've experienced. The key is to stop measuring your worth based on someone else's standards, and instead focus on how far you've come, no matter how big or small the steps. It's also important to remember that what we see on the surface is not always the full story. The version of someone else's life that you see on social media, in a magazine, or on a stage is often just a curated snapshot. It's the highlight reel, not the behind-the-scenes struggles, failures, and lessons. What people choose to share is often polished and idealized. No one's life is perfect, and comparing your behind-the-scenes to someone else's highlight reel is an unfair and unrealistic comparison. The truth is, we all have struggles. We all face challenges, but we don't always show them to the world. Recognizing this can help you break free from the comparison trap and focus more on your own progress. Another issue with comparison is that it creates unnecessary pressure. You begin to feel like you have to keep up with everyone else's pace, which leads to burnout, stress, and a sense of frustration. You start measuring your success by how fast you're moving compared to others, which only clouds your ability to see the long-term picture. Success isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. The people you're comparing yourself to may be in different stages of their journey. Some might have more resources, experience, or advantages. That doesn't make their success any more valuable than yours. It just means their path might look different. Instead of focusing on what others are doing, focus on your own growth. Celebrate the small wins, acknowledge the lessons learned from your failures, and commit to taking consistent action, regardless of what anyone else is doing. Your journey is uniquely yours, and it doesn't have to look like anyone else's. The more you compare, the more you rob yourself of the opportunity to enjoy your own path. A huge part of why comparison is so detrimental is that it erodes your confidence. When you look at someone else's life and feel like you're falling short, it reinforces feelings of inadequacy. The truth is, there will always be someone ahead of you, someone who has more than you, someone who seems to be doing better. But that doesn't diminish your worth or your potential. The only person you need to compare yourself to is the person you were yesterday. Are you making progress? Are you learning? Are you getting closer to your goals? These are the questions that matter. When you measure your success based on your own growth and progress, you empower yourself to keep moving forward. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that someone else's success means you've failed. But this is a harmful mindset that only slows you down. Just because someone else is winning doesn't mean there's less success for you. There's enough room for everyone to succeed. There's no competition when you're focused on your own path. Instead of measuring yourself against others, use their success as motivation. Let their achievements inspire you, not discourage you. See them as proof that success is possible, not as evidence that it's out of your reach. One of the most empowering things you can do is stop comparing and start collaborating. Instead of seeing others as competition, look at how you can learn from them or even work together. Successful people don't look at each other as threats. They recognize that everyone has something unique to offer. By focusing on collaboration instead of comparison, you can build a network of support that helps you reach your goals while also supporting others in their journey. The key to breaking free from the comparison trap is to shift your mindset. Focus on your own path, your own growth, and your own journey. Recognize that everyone's timeline is different, and there's no right or wrong way to achieve success. The only thing that matters is that you keep moving forward, no matter how small the steps may seem. Instead of measuring your life against someone else's, take pride in your own progress and celebrate your uniqueness. Your journey is your own, and no one else can walk it for you. The more you embrace this, the more empowered you'll feel to take on the challenges ahead and continue building the life that's right for you. Chapter 12. The Hidden Power of Your Emotions. Emotions are one of the most powerful forces that drive our decisions, actions, and reactions. They shape how we see the world and how we interact with the people around us. The way we feel can determine how productive we are, how we respond to challenges, and even how we perceive our own success. Yet, many of us don't fully understand the power our emotions have over us or how to harness them in a way that benefits our growth. Emotions are not something we can just ignore. They are a vital part of who we are. However, understanding how they work and how to manage them can make all the difference in our ability to live a fulfilling and successful life. Our emotions are often triggered by external events, but the way we respond to those emotions is entirely within our control. Sometimes it's easy to get swept up in our feelings, especially when we're upset, frustrated, or even overjoyed. We may act impulsively, letting our emotions dictate our actions. But the key to mastering your emotions lies in learning to pause before reacting and understanding that you have the ability to choose your response. Emotions are natural, but they don't have to control you. One of the biggest challenges we face when it comes to emotions is accepting that they are part of being human. We often try to suppress negative emotions like anger, sadness, or fear because we're taught that they are bad feelings. The reality is, emotions aren't inherently good or bad. They are simply signals that tell us how we're reacting to a situation. Emotions like anger can signal that something is wrong, that we feel threatened or disrespected. Sadness can indicate a loss or a disappointment that we need to address. Fear can be a signal that we're stepping into the unknown or that we need to be cautious. These emotions are not our enemies. They are simply messages from our mind and body, urging us to pay attention to something important. When we learn to embrace and understand our emotions, we can start to use them as tools for growth. Instead of seeing anger as a negative emotion to be suppressed, we can see it as an opportunity to reflect on what is making us angry. Is it an injustice? Is it a feeling of being misunderstood? By understanding the root cause of our emotions, we can begin to address the underlying issue rather than just reacting to the surface-level feeling. The same goes for fear and sadness. Instead of allowing these emotions to take over, we can use them as opportunities to ask ourselves deeper questions about our needs, desires, and goals. Another important aspect of managing our emotions is learning to respond instead of react. When we react impulsively, we are governed by the emotion of the moment. We might lash out in anger, shut down in fear, or freeze up in sadness. But when we take a moment to pause, breathe, and reflect, we can respond in a way that aligns with our values and long-term goals. This is a powerful shift, and it's one of the most important skills you can develop if you want to live a more intentional and fulfilling life. Take a moment to think about how you've responded to challenges in the past. When something didn't go your way, how did you react? Did you feel angry, frustrated, or defeated? Now, think about a time when you responded thoughtfully and calmly. How did that make you feel? It's likely that you felt more in control, more capable of handling the situation, and more at peace with the outcome. This is the power of choosing your response over reacting automatically. When you take the time to assess your emotions and think about your next move, you give yourself the chance to act in a way that supports your best interests. The power of emotional awareness goes beyond just our personal reactions. It also plays a significant role in how we relate to others. Our emotions are contagious. When we're feeling upset or stressed, it's easy for that negative energy to affect the people around us. Similarly, when we're in a good mood, it can uplift others. This is why emotional intelligence, or the ability to recognize and manage our emotions and the emotions of others, is such a valuable skill. It allows us to build stronger relationships, communicate more effectively, and create a positive environment wherever we go. Emotional intelligence starts with self-awareness. The more you understand your own emotions, the better you can manage them. When you're in touch with how you're feeling, you can better understand why you're reacting the way you are. This makes it easier to respond in a way that is thoughtful and productive. When you understand what triggers your emotions, you can work on avoiding or managing those triggers more effectively. For example, if you know that you get stressed out when you're overloaded with tasks, you can work on time management or delegate tasks to prevent that stress from building up. Another key component of emotional intelligence is empathy, ability to understand and share the feelings of others. When you can recognize what someone else is going through, it becomes easier to offer support, resolve conflicts, and build stronger connections. Empathy helps you see situations from another person's perspective, which can deepen your relationships and lead to more productive interactions. Whether in personal or professional settings, people are more likely to work with you, trust you, and respect you if you show empathy and understanding. One way to cultivate emotional intelligence is through mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment, without judgment. It involves paying attention to your thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations without reacting to them immediately. Mindfulness can help you become more aware of your emotional state, so you can choose how to respond rather than simply reacting on autopilot. By practicing mindfulness, you can develop greater emotional resilience and find peace in the midst of life's challenges. Another strategy for managing your emotions is journaling. Writing down your thoughts and feelings can be a powerful way to process your emotions. It allows you to step outside of yourself and gain perspective on what's going on internally. Journaling can also help you identify patterns in your emotions and reactions, which can provide valuable insights into your triggers and coping mechanisms. By putting your thoughts on paper, you give yourself the opportunity to reflect, release any pent-up emotions, and find clarity in your feelings. It's also important to remember that emotional regulation is a skill that takes practice. Just like any other skill, it requires time, effort, and patience to develop. You won't always get it right, and that's okay. The goal is progress, not perfection. Every time you make the choice to pause, reflect, and respond thoughtfully, you're building emotional strength. Over time, these small moments add up and make a significant impact on your overall emotional well-being. The reality is, life will always have its ups and downs. We will face challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. But by learning to manage our emotions, we can navigate those difficulties with greater ease and confidence. Emotional resilience is the ability to bounce back from adversity, to face challenges with a sense of inner strength and peace. It doesn't mean you won't feel negative emotions, but it means you have the tools to manage them, to understand them, and to use them to your advantage. By taking control of your emotions, you take control of your life. Instead of letting your emotions dictate your actions, you can use them as a powerful force for growth. Whether it's handling a stressful situation at work, navigating a difficult relationship, or simply managing your daily routine, your ability to regulate your emotions can make all the difference. And the best part is, this is something you can practice and improve every day. Emotional mastery is not about avoiding feelings or suppressing them. It's about understanding them, accepting them, and using them to become a better, more resilient version of yourself. Chapter 13. Why we avoid the truth. There are few things as powerful as the truth. Yet, for many of us, the truth can be uncomfortable, unsettling, or even downright frightening. We tend to avoid facing the truth, especially when it challenges the way we see the world or how we see ourselves. But when we ignore the truth, we are only delaying the inevitable. The longer we avoid it, the more it weighs on us, and the harder it becomes to deal with. Eventually, the truth catches up, and when it does, it can be even more difficult to face. We all have a tendency to bury our heads in the sand when confronted with something unpleasant. It's natural to want to avoid pain, discomfort, or the unknown. Sometimes we fool ourselves into thinking that if we ignore a problem long enough, it will just go away. But in reality, ignoring the truth only leads to more pain down the road. Problems don't vanish because we avoid them. They only grow bigger, more complicated, and harder to solve. Take a moment to think about your own life. What truths are you avoiding? Is there something you know you need to address but keep putting off? Maybe it's a difficult conversation with someone you care about, or perhaps it's a personal issue you've been ignoring for years. Whatever it is, it's important to recognize that avoiding the truth is a choicier choice that often keeps us stuck in the same place, unable to move forward. The truth is not always easy to face, but it's always necessary. When we face the truth, we empower ourselves to make decisions that align with who we really are. We stop pretending and start being real with ourselves. It's only when we confront the truth that we can make meaningful change in our lives. Without the truth, we are walking in the dark, making decisions based on false assumptions and half-truths. When we shine a light on the truth, we gain clarity, and clarity gives us the direction we need to move forward. In many cases, avoiding the truth is a defense mechanism. We shield ourselves from the harsh reality of a situation because we're afraid of the emotional pain it may cause. We tell ourselves that facing the truth will only make things worse, that it's better to stay in our comfort zone and continue living in denial. But the reality is that living in denial is what actually makes things worse. The longer we stay in denial, the harder it becomes to break free from it. And the longer we avoid the truth, the more energy we waste trying to keep up the illusion. Sometimes the truth can be so painful that we convince ourselves we don't want to know it. It's easier to live in a fantasy world where everything is fine, even if deep down we know it isn't. But pretending doesn't solve anything. It only keeps us trapped in a cycle of avoidance, where we push the truth further away every time it tries to make an appearance. This can affect our mental health, our relationships, and even our physical well-being. When we face the truth, however, we open up the possibility for healing and growth. It may not be easy, and it may not happen overnight, but confronting the truth gives us the opportunity to address what's really going on. We can stop pretending and start taking action. We can stop avoiding the uncomfortable conversations and start making the changes that are necessary for us to live a more authentic and fulfilling life. Facing the truth requires courage. It means stepping into the unknown and confronting the things we'd rather not deal with. It takes strength to look at ourselves honestly and to admit when we've made mistakes or when we've been avoiding something important. But the strength to face the truth is already within us. We all have the ability to be brave, to step up and take ownership of our lives. It's just a matter of choosing to do so. One of the most common reasons people avoid the truth is fear. We fear rejection, failure, or the unknown. We fear what might happen if we confront the truth head-on. But the reality is that fear is often exaggerated in our minds. We imagine the worst-case scenario and convince ourselves that it will be unbearable. In truth, facing the truth often leads to freedom. It frees us from the burden of carrying around secrets, lies, and unspoken truths. It opens the door to new possibilities, new opportunities, and new relationships. When we choose to face the truth, we also choose to take responsibility for our actions. We stop blaming others, circumstances, or even ourselves for our problems. Instead, we recognize that we have the power to create change, and that power starts with acknowledging the truth of where we are. It's not about blaming ourselves for past mistakes. It's about understanding that we can learn from those mistakes and use them as stepping stones toward a better future. One of the most liberating things we can do is acknowledge the truth about our own limitations. No one is perfect. We all have areas where we struggle or fall short. But when we accept those limitations instead of avoiding them, we empower ourselves to make better choices. We can stop pretending to be something we're not and start embracing who we truly are. It's only when we accept ourselves fully, flaws and all, that we can begin to grow and evolve. Another reason people avoid the truth is because they don't want to hurt others. We often avoid speaking the truth to those around us because we don't want to cause pain or discomfort. While it's important to be compassionate and considerate, avoiding the truth can actually be more harmful in the long run. When we withhold the truth, we deny others the opportunity to grow, to understand, or to make informed decisions. It's better to be honest, even if it's difficult, than to let someone live in a false reality. The truth can be uncomfortable, but it's also a powerful catalyst for change. When we acknowledge the truth, we take control of our lives. We stop being passive observers of our own story and start becoming active participants. We stop letting our circumstances dictate who we are, and we start creating the life we want. The truth gives us clarity, direction, and the courage to move forward. Living in truth requires ongoing self-reflection. It's not a one-time event, but a continuous process of self-discovery and growth. It involves being open to feedback, being willing to examine our own beliefs, and being courageous enough to make changes when necessary. The more we practice living in truth, the easier it becomes. We learn to trust ourselves and our ability to handle whatever comes our way. The truth becomes a source of strength, not something to fear. By embracing the truth, we free ourselves from the chains of denial, avoidance, and self-deception. We take control of our destiny and begin living with greater authenticity. We stop letting fear and uncertainty hold us back. We stop living in the shadows of half-truths and start stepping boldly into the light of reality. When we choose truth, we choose freedom, growth, and the possibility of a brighter future. Chapter 14. The real cost of short-term thinking. The way we think about short-term versus long-term consequences plays a huge role in shaping the decisions we make. Often, it's easy to focus on the immediate reward, the quick win, the things that make us feel good in the moment. We're wired to enjoy those little bursts of pleasure, but if we don't pay attention to the long-term impact of our actions, we end up making choices that undermine our future success and happiness. It's an approach to life that can set us back, sometimes without us even realizing it until much later down the road. Think about the times you've chosen the easier option, the one that didn't require much effort, but also didn't deliver lasting results. It's tempting, right? A quick snack instead of a healthy meal, putting off an important task because it seems overwhelming, or taking a shortcut instead of doing the work that will pay off in the long run. These decisions may feel right in the moment, but if we're not careful, they build up over time, leading to regrets and missed opportunities. On the other hand, focusing on long-term goals requires us to put aside the instant gratification and think about the bigger picture. This is where discipline comes into play. It's easy to do what's fun or convenient now, but it takes real strength to stick with something that will benefit us down the road, especially when the payoff isn't immediate. We're often not rewarded right away for doing what's hard or what's uncomfortable, but it's those very actions, the ones that challenge us, that ultimately shape our success. Take a look at any area of life where you've made progress. Maybe it's your health, finances, relationships, or career. In each of those areas, if you've made lasting improvements, it's because you've chosen to prioritize long-term benefits over short-term comfort. Building a career doesn't happen overnight. It requires years of effort, persistence, and sometimes sacrifice. Same with your health. Those who are in great shape didn't get there by skipping workouts or eating junk food every day. They made the difficult choice to stick with their plan, even when it was hard, and when the results didn't show up right away. It's tempting to think that the quick fix will solve our problems, but these solutions are often just temporary. They may offer instant relief, but they rarely solve the underlying issue. That's why when we try to take shortcuts in life, we end up right back where we started or worse, even further behind. Long-term success requires consistent effort, even when things aren't exciting or easy. Every small choice we make adds up, and over time, those choices define our path. In the short term, it can feel like we're sacrificing something valuable when we say no to those immediate pleasures. But in reality, the true cost is found in what we're willing to give up in the future. The cost of neglecting our health, putting off difficult but important conversations, or avoiding uncomfortable challenges today can result in much higher costs down the line. It's not always easy to see it in the moment, but the price of short-term thinking can be a steep one to pay in the future. One way to start shifting our mindset from short-term to long-term thinking is by getting clear on what we truly want out of life. It's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of daily distractions, but when we take the time to really think about our goals and dreams, we begin to understand why it's worth making the sacrifices today for a better tomorrow. The things that are truly important to us, whether it's building a career, maintaining meaningful relationships, or achieving personal growth, require consistent effort. These aren't things that can be achieved with shortcuts or by avoiding the hard work. In fact, the journey toward these long-term goals is often where the most growth happens. It's in the challenges and obstacles that we develop the resilience, wisdom, and strength needed to succeed. If everything came easily, we wouldn't have the same sense of accomplishment when we finally reach our destination. The sense of pride that comes from working hard for something, from overcoming difficulties, is what makes the rewards so much more fulfilling. When we think about the future, we can either look at it with excitement and anticipation or with dread and fear. The difference lies in how we approach the choices we make today. If we're focused on instant gratification, the future can feel like a weight we don't want to face. But when we choose to focus on the long term and make decisions that align with our future goals, we start to see the future as an opportunity. Instead of being overwhelmed by it, we become empowered to create the future we want, step by step. One way to move toward long-term thinking is by practicing patience. Patience isn't just about waiting, it's about trusting the process, knowing that things take time, and being okay with that. The best things in life often require patience. Whether it's building a business, learning a new skill, or creating lasting relationships, these things don't happen overnight. They happen slowly, piece by piece, as we remain consistent and focused. Another key to long-term thinking is the ability to delay gratification. This is where many people struggle. We live in a world full of distractions and temptations, and it's easy to give in to the pull of instant rewards. But delaying gratification doesn't mean we're denying ourselves pleasure. It means that we're choosing to put off short-term satisfaction for something far more meaningful down the road. It's the ability to see beyond the immediate moment and recognize that what we do today sets the stage for the life we want to live in the future. In many ways, our ability to make choices based on long-term thinking is what separates those who succeed from those who don't. The ability to stay focused on the big picture, even when things get difficult, is a skill that can be developed over time. The more we practice making decisions that align with our long-term goals, the easier it becomes to make those choices. It starts with small steps, saying no to things that aren't aligned with our future and saying yes to the things that are. It's not always easy, and it doesn't always feel good in the moment. But the key is recognizing that the pain of temporary discomfort is far outweighed by the joy of long-term success. When we're able to push through the tough moments and keep our eyes on the prize, we can achieve things we never thought possible. The sacrifices we make today, the decisions we make that prioritize long-term rewards, set us up for success in ways that we might not fully understand right away. In the end, the real cost of short-term thinking isn't just about missed opportunities or the discomfort of making difficult choices. It's about the kind of life we want to lead. Do we want a life built on quick fixes and temporary pleasures, or do we want a life that's rich with meaning, purpose, and lasting success? The choice is ours. We can choose the path that's easier now, or we can choose the path that leads to the future we truly desire. When we focus on long-term thinking, we're making an investment in ourselves. It's an investment that pays off, often in ways we can't fully appreciate until much later. And while the road may be long and challenging, it's the road that leads to the most fulfilling and rewarding life. The true cost of short-term thinking is the life we settle for. The true reward of long-term thinking is the life we're capable of creating. Chapter 15. Living a life that's true to you. Living a life true to yourself isn't something that happens by accident. It's something that requires intention, awareness, and the courage to take the road less traveled. It means shedding the layers of influence that society, family, and friends place on you, and learning to follow your own compass. Too many people live their lives based on what others expect of them or what they feel they should do. The pressure to conform is immense, and it can easily lead to a life that doesn't align with who you really are. But when you start to live authentically, everything changes. The small choices you make each day begin to build the foundation for a life that's truly yours. It's easy to get caught up in trying to meet expectations, whether it's fitting into a certain mold or achieving goals that others set for you. But the key to living an authentic life is understanding that you are in control of your own path. This doesn't mean ignoring advice or not considering the perspectives of others, but it does mean recognizing that your life is yours to live. It's about making choices that resonate with your values, desires, and aspirations, rather than following a script written by someone else. Living true to yourself often requires making difficult decisions, especially when those decisions push against societal norms or expectations. It might mean choosing a career path that doesn't offer immediate financial rewards but aligns with your passions. It might mean stepping away from relationships that no longer serve you, or letting go of old habits that keep you stuck. The fear of judgment and criticism can be paralyzing, but it's important to realize that no matter what path you choose, there will always be someone who disagrees or doesn't understand, and that's okay. The people who truly matter will support you in finding your own way. It's also important to recognize that living true to yourself doesn't mean everything will be easy or that it will always feel comfortable. There will be challenges, obstacles, and sacrifices, but in those moments, you'll find that the satisfaction of being aligned with your true self outweighs the discomfort of navigating these struggles. When you're living authentically, every step feels like progress, because you're moving towards something that matters deeply to you. The first step in living a life true to yourself is self-awareness. You have to understand who you are before you can start making choices that reflect your true self. This isn't always easy, as it requires honest reflection and sometimes even uncomfortable realizations. But when you begin to examine your life, your choices and your motivations, you can start to see where you may have been living for others or making decisions based on external validation. For many people, there's a deep fear of rejection or failure that holds them back from truly expressing themselves. The fear of not being accepted can lead us to suppress our true desires and settle for a life that feels safe but unfulfilling. But the truth is, living in fear of what others think will only lead to regret. You have to trust yourself enough to step out of your comfort zone and take the risks that will ultimately bring you closer to the person you're meant to be. A huge part of living authentically is learning to say no. It's easy to say yes to every opportunity that comes your way, to every request that people make, but saying yes to everything often means saying no to what's truly important. You have to be discerning about where you spend your energy and time. If something doesn't align with your values or move you toward your goals, it's okay to turn it down. In fact, it's necessary. Saying no doesn't make you selfish. It makes you intentional. You are choosing to protect your time, your energy, and your peace of mind. Building a life that's true to you also means embracing your flaws and imperfections. No one is perfect, and the pressure to be flawless can be paralyzing. But the reality is that our imperfections are part of what makes us unique and human. When you accept your flaws and embrace them, you free yourself from the unrealistic expectation of perfection. This doesn't mean giving up on self-improvement or striving for excellence. It simply means being okay with where you are in the process and recognizing that growth comes from accepting who you are, flaws and all. Living authentically also requires you to be honest with yourself about your goals and dreams. What do you truly want out of life? What lights you up? What are you passionate about? These are the questions you need to ask yourself, and sometimes the answers may surprise you. You may discover that your dreams are different from what you once thought they were, or that they've evolved over time. That's okay. The important thing is that you are in tune with what you truly want, and that you're willing to take steps, no matter how small, to get there. As you begin to make decisions that are in alignment with your true self, you'll start to notice a shift in how you feel about your life. Instead of feeling drained or disconnected, you'll feel energized and empowered. There's a sense of peace that comes with living authentically. It's not about external validation or approval. It's about knowing that you are living in a way that feels true and right to you. That peace is priceless. It's the kind of inner peace that comes from living your life according to your own values and not based on the opinions of others. At the same time, living true to yourself means being open to change and growth. Life is constantly evolving, and so are you. The person you are today is not the same as the person you were 5 years ago, and you'll continue to grow and change. Living authentically doesn't mean staying stuck in one version of yourself. It means being willing to evolve, to adapt, and to embrace the new opportunities and challenges that come your way. The more you align with who you truly are, the more you open yourself up to new possibilities. One of the most freeing aspects of living authentically is that you start to realize that you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have the perfect plan or know exactly where your path will lead. What matters is that you are moving forward with intention and that you are making choices that reflect who you are. You don't have to live up to anyone else's expectations, only your own. And that's incredibly liberating. In the end, living a life that's true to you isn't just about personal satisfaction. It's about living in a way that inspires others to do the same. When you show up authentically, you give permission to others to do the same. You create a ripple effect that encourages those around you to embrace their own truth. And that's how we begin to create a world where people are empowered to live their best, most authentic lives. When you finally take the leap to live true to yourself, The world opens up in ways you never imagined. You stop playing small, and you start showing up as the person you were always meant to be. It's not about perfection, but progress. Every step you take toward living authentically is a victory. And that victory isn't just yours, it's a victory for everyone who sees you, taking that bold step and finds the courage to do the same. So, now that we've explored the hidden truths behind our actions, it's time to take a step back and reflect. The real power comes from understanding yourself better, why you make the choices you do, what motivates you, and how to use that knowledge to your advantage. When you start seeing things clearly, you can make decisions that align with your true goals and desires. Change doesn't happen overnight, but every step you take brings you closer to where you want to be. Start small, stay consistent, and keep your focus on the bigger picture. It's all about progress, not perfection. Remember, the power to shape your future is in your hands. Now that you know more about the forces driving your actions, use that understanding to take control and create the life you've always dreamed of. Stay committed, keep learning, and embrace the journey. Your best self is waiting.